Right now, at this very moment, the world is on the edge of something catastrophic. Over 2,000 people are dead, global oil prices are skyrocketing, and a fragile ceasefire is about to collapse. What started as a surgical strike has turned into a full-blown regional war that could reshape global economics, and maybe, just maybe, drag the entire world into conflict. This is the story of the US-Iran War of 2026. And honestly, nobody wins from here. Let me take you back to April 13, 2026. Just a few hours ago, the United States Navy announced a complete blockade of Iran. All maritime traffic, in or out, stopped. Why? Because peace talks just collapsed. A 21-hour marathon negotiation in Pakistan ended with nothing, absolutely nothing. On one side, the United States, saying Iran refused their final offer. On the other, Iran, saying the US made impossible demands. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important choke points in global trade, is now a war zone. And 30% of the world's oil passes through it. Think about what that means next time you fill up your car. To understand what's happening now, you need to rewind to 1979. The year? Iran has a revolution. And not just any revolution. The Shah, Iran's pro-American dictator, is overthrown by the Islamic Revolution. Ayatollah Khomeini takes power. And suddenly, the entire relationship between Iran and America shatters. The U.S. Embassy in Tehran is stormed. American diplomats are held hostage for 444 days. It became a symbol of defiance. From that moment on, Iran saw America as an enemy, and America viewed Iran the same way. For decades after that, things only got worse. In the 1980s, the U.S. secretly helped Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. Hundreds of thousands died. Then, in 2002, the world discovered something alarming. Iran was secretly building a nuclear program. Washington freaked out. Sanctions were imposed. Harsh, economic, crushing. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Iran said they weren't building a bomb. They claimed it was just for energy or power plants. But the West didn't believe them. And let's be honest, they had a point to be suspicious. So fast forward to 2015, a moment of hope. Barack Obama and Iran's government actually negotiated the JCPOA, also called the Iran nuclear deal. It was historic. Iran agreed to limit their nuclear program. In return, sanctions would be lifted. It actually worked for a brief moment in time. But then, 2017, Donald Trump takes office. And in 2018, he does something controversial. He pulls America out of the nuclear deal. In his view, it wasn't strict enough. Iran was still advancing missiles, still supporting militias, still a threat. From Tehran's perspective, America had just betrayed them. Negotiations were pointless. So what did Iran do? They ripped up the agreement, started enriching uranium again, even faster than before. And Israel watched, waited, and prepared. Because if Iran got the bomb, Israel felt existentially threatened. That's when things started escalating hard. Jump to 2025 and early 2026. Israel has been launching secret strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, destroying them, killing scientists. Then in February 2026, the waiting stops. On February 28, the US and Israel launch Operation Epic Fury. Massive, coordinated, devastation. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to destroy. Targets, Iran's nuclear program, its missile facilities, its government leadership, and they succeeded, horrifyingly. In the first wave of strikes, Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei is killed. The man who had ruled Iran for decades, dead. Thousands of drones, hundreds of missiles, pinpoint accuracy. The Iranian people watched their government buildings collapse on live television. And for a moment, it looked like the US had won. But then came the retaliation. Iran was wounded but not defeated. And they had a message for America. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, thousands of drones, heading toward Israel, heading toward US military bases across the Middle East, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Qatar. One drone reached Cyprus and struck a British military base. Missiles were shot down over Turkey. NATO activated for the first time. This wasn't a surgical strike anymore. This was war. And it expanded fast. Lebanon became a battlefield. Israel and Hezbollah, Iran's closest ally in the region, started a full-scale conflict. Over 2,000 civilians killed in Lebanon alone. Then came something that shocked everyone. Iran threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, that's 30% of global oil supply flowing through a narrow passage. If it closes, the world's economy doesn't just slow down, it stops. So here we are, day 44 of the war. A fragile ceasefire was supposed to last 2 weeks, started just a few days ago, but it's already falling apart. Why? Because the peace talks just failed spectacularly. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance sat down with Iranian negotiators for 21 hours straight. 21 hours. No breaks. No agreement. Each side blamed the other. Vance said Iran refused to accept our terms. Iran said the U.S. made impossible demands. What were those demands? Here's where it gets tricky. Iran wants sanctions lifted. They want their frozen assets released. They want to maintain the right to enrich uranium for what they claim are peaceful purposes. The U.S.? They want Iran to completely dismantle its nuclear program. Not limit it. Dismantle it. No enrichment. Nothing. From the American perspective, this is non-negotiable. If Iran has the bomb, they think it's a catastrophe for global security. From Iran's perspective, America is asking them to surrender their only deterrent against being invaded again. There's also the Strait of Hormuz. Who controls it? How much can Iran block it? What guarantees does the U.S. need? And then there's Lebanon. Iran insists any ceasefire must include Lebanon. But Israel keeps bombing. It's deadlock. And now, the U.S. Navy is moving forward with a complete blockade. As of today, no ships in or out of Iranian ports. This is economic strangulation. Oil prices have already jumped 31% since the war started. Brent crude is hovering around $95 per barrel. If the blockade holds, prices could spike even higher. The IMF is warning of global recession. Airlines are canceling flights. Supply chains are breaking. Dubai airport was damaged. Shipping routes are being rerouted to avoid the conflict zone. This is affecting you. Right now. Your gas prices. Your grocery prices. Your job. Your economy. 30% of global oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. That's 21 million barrels per day. If that's even partially blocked, shortages happen. Prices soar. Inflation accelerates. Economists are already downgrading global growth forecasts. The World Bank, the IMF, everyone. Countries are releasing emergency oil reserves. The U.S. is even temporarily allowing Russian oil to be imported. Think about how desperate that is. Economic domino effect. Higher oil prices mean higher transportation costs. Which means higher prices for, literally everything. Food. Medicine. Clothing. Electronics. Supply chains that haven't recovered from COVID are getting hit again. Companies are struggling. People are struggling. Geopolitical realignment. China is watching. Russia is watching. This conflict is showing the world that the Middle East is up for grabs. And that America might overreach. U.S. allies are nervous. Should they trust America? One negotiation. One president. And suddenly everything changes. The unspoken fear, escalation. Here's what keeps strategists awake at night. What if this gets worse? What if the ceasefire fully collapses? What if Iran closes the strait intentionally? What if they sink a ship? What if Israel strikes again? At that point, does NATO get involved? Does Russia? Does China support Iran? That's not World War III territory yet, but we're getting closer than we've been in decades. The nuclear threat is real. What if, in desperation, Iran rushes to build a bomb? What if they use it? That's the scenario that terrifies everyone. Iran makes concessions on nuclear enrichment. The U.S. lifts sanctions. The blockade is removed. The Strait of Hormuz reopens. Oil prices normalize. Global economy stabilizes. But here's the catch, Trump says he wants regime change. A new supreme leader in Iran. That's a huge ask. Iran would need to overthrow their own government. That's not happening quietly. Path 2, the conflict escalates. The ceasefire breaks down completely. U.S. strikes resume. Iran retaliates. More cities are damaged. The Strait of Hormuz is actively contested. Oil hits $150 a barrel or higher. Global recession becomes inevitable. Unemployment rises. Economies contract. But even then, neither side wants nuclear war. So it probably stays conventional. Which means this could drag on for months or years. Path 3, long-term Cold War. The most likely scenario, honestly. A ceasefire holds, barely. But no real peace deal. Both sides keep military pressure on each other. Iran's economy gets crushed by blockades. America commits to a permanent military presence. The region stays destabilized. Oil stays expensive. The global economy just adjusts to a new normal. And we all live with the threat hanging over our heads. None of these are good outcomes. That's the reality. You might be thinking, this is happening in the Middle East. Why does it affect me? Because energy markets are global. Your job might depend on them. Your retirement accounts depend on them. Your ability to afford gas, food, heat, housing. All of it. This conflict is also a test. A test of America's power. A test of whether negotiation even works anymore. If the US can convince Iran to accept a deal, it shows diplomacy isn't dead. If this drags on, it shows that military power alone can't solve fundamental disagreements. And it shows you what global instability actually looks like. It's not exciting. It's not cinematic. It's just expensive. Disruptive. Frightening. Missile trails, empty streets, concerned faces. As I'm filming this, it's April 13, 2026. The ceasefire is fragile. Talks have failed. A blockade is beginning. The next 48 hours matter. The next week matters even more. Because one miscalculation. One emotional decision. One drone that shouldn't have been fired. That's all it takes to turn a war into something much, much worse. The question isn't whether the US and Iran can coexist. They've proven they can't, at least not peacefully. The question is, how bad will it get? And more importantly, how is it going to change your life? Stay informed. Stay safe. And understand that what happens 6,000 miles away might be the most important thing happening in your world right now. Thanks for watching. If you want more deep dives on what's actually happening in global politics, subscribe. And hit that notification bell.